Hold on for 1 second. I'm actually live right now, so I'm going to send you the link again, and we'll get on. Yes. Okay, okay, Elvie. Thanks. Hello, everybody. How you doing today? This is Sakoni Prince, and that was my guest who was having some issues with getting on live. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually send her the link, and hopefully she can get on with her phone, and we can go on and get started, get our show going. Once again, I want to thank you for joining the H.E.A.L podcast. And H.E.A.L is an acronym for Help, Elevate, and Learn, and it's a guide for healing your inner child. I am so excited because I get a chance to share with you what I believe is one of the overlooked issues that a lot of us are facing today, and that is our current behavior that's affected by our past traumas and wounds. And that being the case, I really want us to take the time to really consider how can we address that? How can we take the time and the opportunity to really focus on what causes us to continue to have those types of things showing up in our lives? I know for a fact that there are a lot of people that tend to somewhat, they will in fact dismiss that. They will act like it doesn't even matter. They will try to forget it. But the reality is they find themselves facing that even today. And it shows up in our relationships, it shows up on our jobs, it shows up with our goals and with the things that we are trying to accomplish. And if we don't take the time to address those issues, what happens is we wind up, again, in fact, repeating those processes, going through things over and over again and wondering why we're getting the same results. So in order for us to actually get past our past, we have to address it. We have to be willing to face it. And I've shared this time and time again. Tom Cruise said, you may be done with your past, but your past isn't done with you. Until you've made peace with your past, until you made peace with those things that hurt you, and actually with the wounds that your inner child has actually received when you were younger, they will still show up. They will still find themselves in showing up in your life and showing up in such a way to where you can't ignore them. I mean, like one of the guests I had on the show said that whatever is hysterical is historical. If somebody's hysterical about something, there's more there than just what happened. What happened was a trigger that triggered something from the past. And so understanding that we have things that have happened to us, things that have gone on, things that have possibly been traumas and wounds and stuff that has taken root in our childhood, understanding how those things still show up today, I think it's something that all of us need to take the time to look at and really focus on how we can actually heal from that. But listen, in fact, before we get into our podcast, I do want to share that we are sponsored by BetterHelp. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. First, you go to their site. You can use my link, betterhelp.com/SakoniPrinceHeal. You answer a few questions, and BetterHelp will match you to a professional who's had years of experience helping people with struggles just like yours. You can do it all from your phone or your computer, via a phone call, a video chat, or messaging. However you feel most comfortable. It is the easiest possible way to start talking to a therapist. You'll be matched to a therapist usually within 48 hours, so you can get started fast. Let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist who can support you, all from the comfort of your own home. Visit betterhelp.com/SakoniPrinceHeal or choose Sakoni Prince Heal during your sign up and enjoy a special discount on your first month. So we want to thank BetterHelp for coming alongside and sponsoring us in this podcast and actually just allowing us again to further raise the conversation about our mental health and our inner child trauma and our inner child wounds. I know for a fact that a lot of us deal with this on a day-to-day basis, but we may not recognize it as such. And because of that, we find ourselves again, struggling in certain areas of our life. And that's one of the reasons why I wrote the book entitled Heal, because I wanted us to actually help ourselves first and then be able to help other people. Because until you helped yourself, how can you truly be able to help someone else? Now, I can hear some of you right now saying, Sakoni, you're not perfect. You still make mistakes. You still have issues and stuff that you're dealing with. And that's true. I do. But I'm telling you that I find myself, you can't wait on, you cannot, how can I put it? You can't actually start the process until you've done some work on yourself. So you can't really help other people until you learn how to help yourself. Listen, I'm going to take a second because I need to help our guests get on. So I'm going to play this commercial real quick, and then I'll be right back.
In a world where adulting can often seem overwhelming, there's a secret key to unlocking true serenity: healing the inner child. Within the pages of the acclaimed book, Help Elevate and Learn, a guide to healing your inner child, discover a journey, a transformation, or rebirth. This isn't just about reading, it's about embarking on a path to self-discovery and inner peace. Simultaneously, tune into the soothing waves of the Help Elevate and Learn, a guide to healing your inner child podcast. A sanctuary where candid conversations blend with expert insights, creating a harmonious symphony of healing. Each episode is a step closer to unburdening that youthful spirit within. Remember, it's never too late to offer compassion to that child within you, to rewrite your story with a happier, healthier narrative. Healing the Inner Child, the book, the podcast, the journey. Step into the world of self-healing and witness the transformation unfold.
So again, we want to thank you for actually tuning into the Heal podcast, and we were finally able to get our guest on our show. So I want to actually add her to the screen right now, none other than Carla Dulaney. Carla, are you there?
Hello. Oh my
Oops.
gosh, technical
Make sure I
difficulties.
can hear you fine. Oops,
Can
wait a
you hear
minute.
me?
Ah, there we are.
Oh, I was just
Okay.
talking.
No, 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 no. I can believe me. It has been a day, but we are so glad that we're able to get you on, and I am excited because I know that we're going to be able to actually talk about some things that I honestly believe is going to help people. Now, tell the people a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do.
Well, hello everybody. So thankful to be on the Heal podcast with Mr. Brother, none other than Sakoni Prince. Yeah, so I am Carla Dulaney, the author of The Wedding Before the Wedding. Um from Mobile, Alabama, producer, songwriter, singer, writer, author, director. Yeah.
Okay,
Just
so
got my hands in a lot of things, right?
yeah, yeah, and I mean honestly, it seemed like in fact your head has to be 10 feet tall because you wear so many of them.
Yeah, it's quite a few hats,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Just want to experience whatever I can, and just, you know, get better at everything, I guess.
Definitely, definitely. Well, I know that doing a lot of things, especially when you are creative, it's not really hard, because you have so many juices, so many things, and so many ideas. But I know that there's a core as to
Yeah.
why you're doing, in fact, what it is you're doing. So I want to ask you, what's your core? And then we're going to get into some of our questions. So, what is the thing that really drives you to do all those things that you do?
Helping people, just, the passion for helping people, the passion for healing, those who are sick, those who are in need. That's just my passion. That's my heart. That's what's at the core, is helping people and being that light that God has called me to be in this world. That's at the core.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool, cool, cool. Well, I know earlier this week you were able to get your copy of the book here,
Yes.
and I want to just kind of, well, and we'll talk about what you thought about the book at the end, toward the end. But
Okay.
I want to get into some of these questions, in fact, which I believe are so critical for us to answer today. So,
Okay.
in your personal opinion, how important do you think inner child how important do you think inner child healing is?
Man, I think that's so vitally important because as I was reading your book, I started to reflect on the wedding before the wedding, which is, the book that I've written, which is the concept of, getting back to yourself before you commit to anybody else, right? So as I was reading the book, it was more so like, man, I'm bearing witness with everything, as far as that inner child, because that's how you know who you are. You go all the way back to where it all began, and a lot of times, just like the word says, we're born into sin and shaped in iniquity. So we've been shaped in so many things, but in the beginning is
Hmm.
where it all started in the spirit, where God called us and who he called us to be.
Right,
That starts at the very beginning, and it will take you going all the way back to your childhood and speaking to that inner child, because that's where we were most vulnerable. That's where we were most, we were influenced the most,
right,
and that's where we were the most innocent,
right, right,
too. So
right,
yeah, I think it's vitally and crucially important to go back to that inner child.
right. And even the Bible talks about us bending, in fact, the sampling, while it's young. In fact, when we're more flexible, and during those formative years, we really find ourselves again being shaped by a lot of things.
Right.
And I remember Dr. Charles Dent said on his podcast that at the time we really, as a child, you don't have the words to describe how you're feeling, and you really don't have the vocabulary to really talk about what it is you're going through. So you
Yeah.
find yourself feeling those things, but not really knowing how to package them and also to present them. So then you become an adult and you learn the words, but you're no longer in that situation. And a lot of people say, well, hey, I'm past it. It's behind me. I don't have to deal with it anymore. But if they are careful to observe themselves, they'll notice some things keep coming up. Certain things keep becoming a reoccurring theme in our.
Yeah.
And again, if we don't acknowledge, if we don't address, if we don't recognize that connection between childhood wounds and childhood trauma, how can we get the child? How can we get the inner child healing that we need in order for us to be more healthy and whole adults?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? So
Mhm.
my next question is: when should someone start inner child work?
Oh wow, that's I would encourage, you to start as soon as you become aware
Mm.
that there are some patterns,
Right, right,
and I have five adult children,
okay,
and so in those relationships with them, I've began to reflect a lot more on myself as well and how I influenced them.
right,
And
right.
so I'm seeing them as young adults and encouraging them to go back to their inner child.
Hmm.
Because as a mother, as a parent, I'm observing patterns that maybe I influenced you with, right? And
Right.
I'm encouraging you that yes, I may have, influenced that pattern, but I'm gonna
Hmm.
need you to take a step back and take a trip back to that inner child. What is it that I may not have parented in you that you can parent in yourself now?
Right, right.
So I would say as soon as you become aware, or somebody can make you aware,
Yeah.
listen to the awareness, listen to
Right.
the observer, and then allow that observant person to encourage you to become aware.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I tell people all the time that what happened to you may not have been your fault,
Right.
but it is your responsibility. And
Yeah.
what I mean by that is your responsibility to address it and to actually deal with it. You know,
Yep.
and see the sad part about it is that even as well meaning as we are as parents, we make mistakes, we
Right.
drop the ball, and we let stuff slip through the cracks. But as our awareness comes
Yes.
comes into light,
Right.
us then helping our children. And I believe having these conversations are so critically important because they allow for us to really be able to address areas that we may have kind of dismissed, or kind of like, I don't want to hear about my own faults and failures, but our own faults and failures that become our children's inner child trauma and inner child wounds. So we have to be willing to fess up ourselves
Yeah. Yeah.
and then, help our children.
Yeah.
And but see, a lot of people say, well, nobody fessed up to me, nobody admitted what they did to me when I was a child was wrong,
Mhm.
and that may be true. But
Right.
again, it may not be your fault, but it is your responsibility for you to
Yeah.
address it in yourself,
Yeah.
so moving forward with your children or your grandchildren, you can have a better life in
Yeah.
order for them to see that it's possible.
Yeah.
And so,
Absolutely.
yeah, and I love what you said about, people that are close to you, and people that care the most about you, people that have, in fact, the most to win by you being the best version of yourselves.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
if they tell you or they point out something, my thing is there any truth to it?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, because they are close to you, they know you, and
Yeah.
so having somebody like that in your life can really help you to develop and grow yourself. But you have to build that relationship. You have to have those types of relationship. It could be a trusted friend, it could be a sibling, it
Yeah.
could be, someone at your job or in your sorority, fraternity, at your church, someone who can be straight up with you,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
someone that you respect, and someone that you can listen to,
Right.
because again, they want to see you win just as much as you do.
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay, so now I know this is really going to, and this question was given to me by Kathy Barton Brown. She was on a couple of weeks ago, but I know
Mhm.
this is going to feed in right into what it is I know you do. And the question is, how does trauma show up in life and relationships?
Oh man. Wow. Okay. So I did a survey, and this survey was geared towards, our age group between 40 and 60 years old.
Okay.
And so one of the questions on that questionnaire was, why do you think relationships don't last? Why do you think there's so many divorces, and why do you think so many of us are single right now? And 68% of those, that took the survey said they believe that relationships don't last because of unhealed trauma. And
Mm,
so that was so eye-opening, the fact that the people who are, engaged in this survey, they're probably most likely self-reflecting, you know
right.
not
Okay.
just projecting, but they're also self-reflecting, and
Correct.
so, it definitely plays a vital role in relationships. If I could get transparent and personal, I was with my children's dad, who was physically, mentally, and emotionally abusive, and I was with him for 9 years. So, in that relationship, I saw a lot of things that my mom did, and why she stayed, and why she, and so I did, well, I wouldn't say why she stayed, but I would say I did not want to repeat the patterns of multiple fathers over my children, right?
Right. Right.
So what it did was kept me in bondage to someone, because I didn't want to repeat the pattern of my mother.
Right.
because I know what happened to me as a little girl with so many different, you know, men over my life,
Right.
personally. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, abuse,
Right.
molestation and that sort of thing. So, it showed up. It caused me to stay longer than I was supposed to, and it caused me to repeat the pattern of abuse, and
Right.
allowing someone to abuse me,
Right.
because I didn't want to repeat the patterns of my mother. Now, mind you, I love my mother. I've forgiven my mother. I respect the fact that, she did what she could do with what she had.
Right.
But, it definitely plays a role in relationships, whether it be from the abuser or the abusee. I found out that my children's dad literally tried to protect his mother when she was being physically abused, and he was put into the youth center. So he felt like it was okay then, you know.
Wow.
So with that, he had the patterns that he had from his childhood, and I had the patterns that I had from my childhood, you know.
Right.
Now,
Right.
of course, I did make it out of that relationship, praise God, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and forgiveness is just one of those other things that we have to, do in order to heal,
Right.
so he's forgiven, praise God. I no longer walk in fear for my life anymore, and I just had to do some work, you know
Right.
had
Right.
to do some
Right.
work. So it definitely plays a role. It's something that I believe young adults have to begin to work on if they're dating and if they're in relationship. As soon as that partner makes you aware of what it is that you might be inflicting on them,
Right.
that's where you should begin to do the work.
And that is so so true.
Mhm.
And I know it's a hard pill to swallow at times because it's hard for us to look at ourselves and to it's hard for us to think that we're the villain in our own story. You know,
Yeah.
it's like we always want to paint ourselves as the actual hero, but we don't always get it right. In fact, we don't always do the right thing, and we do have some issues that we need to work on. And it's okay. It's okay for us to admit that we are flawed and we're imperfect, but it's not okay for us to stay that way.
Right.
And we have to be active. We have to actively work on ourselves. We have to make
Actively. Yeah.
make progress, measurable progress. You can't just be some moving target out there in space of us getting there one day. And we need to make sure that we're doing it again for ourselves. Because if we're doing it for someone else, what happens if they leave, if they die, if they move out of state? Then we'll stop. But if we're not trying to heal so that we can be whole and we can be happy and we can show up to the next relationship if we have one, ready for a healthy and a whole type relationship. And so, even along those same lines, that brings up this other question, which I don't have written down, but it really kind of feeds into what it is you focus on. So, when it comes to getting in a relationship with somebody, I think our conversation needs to change. And so, my question to you is: do you think couples need to start talking about those uncomfortable conversations instead of waiting until you 3, 4, 5 years into the marriage? Do you think that during the dating period, during the getting to know you period, conversations like need to come up like how was your childhood, or what was your relationship in fact with your mom or in fact with your dad? I think that those questions are are needed on the front end as opposed to finding out years later. So would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. I think, transparency is the route to freedom, you know? Like if you can show up and be honest with the person that you believe that you're going to spend the rest of your life with, why hold back? That's That's where your truth is going to come in. That's where your trust is going to come in. You know, as
Right.
long as I believe too that when you're having these discussions, you know, you're also you've gotten to a place in that relationship where you've built a level of trust to disclose certain information and be willing to accept the response that comes from that partner. You know, maybe this is not something that they're willing to accept or work on or work with or work through with you, you know, and be
Right.
willing to accept the answer, you
Right.
know, but
Right.
at least the honesty was set forth, you know, the truth was set forth, you
Right.
know. So give that person the freedom to choose whether they're going to be able to handle what you just disclosed.
That's true. That is so so true.
Everybody has to have a choice, you know,
Yeah.
and you don't want to be in a situation where you're trying to control how you think a person should respond or react, because now we got another cycle of abuse, you know.
Mm,
You know, the Bible says that perfect love casts out fear.
right.
So we don't want fear in any, you know, relationship. You don't want to feel like, oh man, you know, let me try to work to keep her, or let me try to work to keep him, you know, because I'm afraid to lose them. Then that's where control is going to come in. So we have to give people the freedom to choose, to
Yes.
accept, or be willing to, you know.
And that's true. And you're right. It does take a level of transparency, but I think it also too takes a level of vulnerability and a level of maturity to be able to
Yeah,
have this conversation. Because oftentimes we start off with rose-colored glasses, and they may
right.
stay rosy for a while. In fact, they may stay
They
rosy
do.
for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and
Yeah.
then in fact, the honeymoon is over. The rose-colored glasses start to fade, and then where reality sets in. I just think that we need to be more intentional about us, like, moving forward. We can't just. It's almost like with the garden. You you till, you plow, you plant, you water, you fertilize. You don't just go outside and just throw the seeds in the where and just say, I hope
Right.
something comes up. No, you work on it. And relationships are work. And if we don't understand that, we set ourselves up for a difficult time, and we set ourselves up for failure. And then in fact we're wondering, why isn't this working? It's not working because we're not working it. In order
Yeah.
for it to work, we have to work.
Yeah.
So that's so true. So now my next question I have is, what do you believe is the biggest obstacle when it comes to inner child healing?
Who, man, I think the biggest obstacle is being willing to accept the truth about what you're observing in yourself. You know, you really cannot be in denial,
That
because
part.
if you are in denial about what it is, and I'm telling you, like, you got to be, that's why it goes back to the self, you know, like, you are hearing this answer. You know what I'm saying, from you. You know,
Right.
there are no outside voices. Like, if you really are intentional about doing the work, you're going to hear some things that you may not be willing to accept, but
Yeah.
that's where the work begins, you know, when you accept what it is that you're hearing
Right.
from within. Please, you know, from within. Accept the fact that this is coming from within.
Right. Right. And that is so so true. You
You
know, again, a
shut
lot
down
of people.
when they get something and they like, you know, I think they shut down. And that's where the work cease.
Yes, it does. So you know, well, I'm gonna say this, and then I'm gonna get to my next question. Again, I know it's difficult, and I know it's hard, but it's needed because, again, if we don't address it, we wind up just in a vicious cycle. And
Yeah.
and somebody once said, that you will be dating the same person, in fact, with a different face and a different name, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not only that, but you'll be showing up as the same person because you haven't healed.
Right.
A lot of us, we want to make sure everybody else is healed, everybody else
Yeah.
is firing on our cylinders, but we don't want to do that ourselves.
Yeah.
So this next question here, it really it's about bringing somebody in because the question is, do you believe that people can do inner child work or inner child therapy on their own?
I think up to a certain point, but at some point you're gonna have to be tested. You
You can't
know?
grade your own paper. You can't grade your own paper. I'm doing great. I'm
There you go.
wonderful.
I like it. You can't grade your own paper. You
Okay.
cannot. So I mean, the inner child, I think up to a certain point, you
Right.
know,
Right.
we're gonna need somebody to test those waters. We're gonna have to be tested with what we've learned. And
Right.
that's beautiful though, because hey, I remember in high school, we had to pass that graduation exam before we graduate, before we,
That's
we
it.
had to pass the exit exam. You know what
That's
I'm
it.
saying?
That's it.
But when you are confident about the work that you put in, you ain't got nothing to worry about. You
That.
gonna show up for the test whole and ready.
That's it.
You
That's
gonna
it.
show up for the test with boundaries in place. You gonna show up for the test with some values on point. You gonna know who you are by that time. You're not gonna be, falling for no anything by the time you make it the exit exam. You gonna pass that mug because you be to study so good and work so hard, and you
Right.
gonna be up out of you gonna be so proud of yourself, man.
Yeah. That's true. That's so true. So true. So I'm asking this last question, and then I have I have two images, in fact, for us to examine. So this last question I have is, how can someone help somebody else who's struggling to identify their need for inner child healing?
How can someone else help someone else identify that they need in wait a minute, say it again.
How can someone help others
Yeah.
who are struggling to identify the need for inner child work?
Yeah, I believe, I believe in the it takes a village, you know, and if you're struggling with it, talk to somebody you trust, you know.
Yes, that part.
If
That part.
if you're struggling with that, talk to somebody, that you believe in. Talk to somebody who has the experience of doing the work,
Right.
so that they can bring you through that struggle, you know. God is amazing. Prayer is amazing.
Right.
But he also created us to be there for one another,
That's
you
true.
know. And he does say that you with your spiritual restore such a one.
Right.
So there are some that you can trust and believe in that will help bring you through that struggle,
Right. Right.
you know?
Yeah. Well, and I know for myself, I've actually gone to therapy as well, to to help again to kind of frame up some of the stuff that I saw in me and
Yeah,
how to address those things in myself and really help me to be in a better space so I can show up as the best version of myself for
right.
those people, in fact, that I've been called to serve.
Yeah,
Listen, I I haven't shown this picture in a while, but I wanted to bring it up on the screen because when you talk about, in fact, relationships, this picture to me it speaks volumes. So I want to get your take on it and let me know if you can see it clearly. In fact, can you see it?
yeah,
Okay. Now, This was a sculpture that was actually created in the desert, and it was actually created by an actual artist from Ukraine. And it shows what appears to be a man and a woman sitting with their backs to each other, but inside of them are two little children and they are reaching for each other. And to me, like when I first saw, well, in fact, when I first saw this, this actual, this image, it spoke volumes to me because, well, one, it solidified the idea that we all have an inner child in us. In fact, but two, it also showed how that inner child wants to connect with the inner child of the other person, you know.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason,
Mm.
they're having issues operating on it. And to me, that's simply because they have yet to make peace with the inner child. Now, I noticed that, this sculpture, it shows the children reaching for each other. But I think sometimes we have the adults that are trying to get together, but the inner childs are the one that are facing the opposite direction. And so it's not until they're both facing each other, in my opinion, that
Yeah.
that in fact relationship is going to operate the way it was intended. So, what are your thoughts when you see this picture?
When I see this picture, oh my gosh, all I see is innocence. There is no fault in the other child. You don't see the negativity that you have gone through. You don't see, the pain and the hurt that you have gone through that has affected who you become as an adult. So one child is reaching for the other child and wanting so bad to connect because they don't see no flaws. But the reason your backs are turned is because you know the flaws. You see the struggle. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right, right,
that person to you appears to be flawed and not together. They've probably hurt you and you probably hurt them, but those inner children know no fault.
right,
They're so innocent and they just want to connect because there's no fear.
right, right,
There's no knowledge of fear. There is nothing to be afraid of.
right,
I mean, it reminds me too of whenever you see a black child connect with a white child. A
right,
white child easily and freely grabs the hand of a black child, you know,
right.
because nobody has spoken any ill will to him or her about the other child.
Yeah, yeah, that is so so true. Children are so innocent.
Yeah.
When it comes to that, uh, you know, they see a playmate. They see a friend, someone that they can relate to, someone that they can have fun with, someone in fact that they can even learn from.
Right.
So and so again, like I said, in fact, when I saw this picture, it just struck me because how many people, how many in fact relationships end
Yeah.
up like this, uh, not having that level of connection, in fact, that's needed to keep going.
Yeah.
And
And I love what you said as far as them facing each other.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
if they would look into each other's eyes and see that other child trying to come out,
yeah,
somebody will concede.
yeah, yeah, and that's one of the most challenging things at times because you are talking about being emotionally naked. You're
Yeah.
just vulnerable, and I I know for men that's a challenge, and quite frankly, even in some cases for women, and
Yeah.
a lot of the reason being is because of their past hurt,
Yeah.
and they haven't healed from it. So it was like, well, the last time I was vulnerable, I was taken advantage of. Like the last time I was transparent, it was used against me.
Yeah.
But it's to me, there's a process and there's a peeling back. There's a layers that should have to be done in order for us to actually get to that place and actually get to that space. Actually, in fact, we have a comment on YouTube where it talks about, in fact, the deeper you peel back the layers, and we all have layers. And
Yeah.
that was from Girl Talk with Dr. In fact, Ladanya. He bet. I'm really glad to have you on here as well. And also Terry Clausel Hannon, she's watching on Facebook. So we want to
Hey.
thank you for tuning in, for tuning in as well. So yeah, we have to be willing to disrobe, if you will, emotionally. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying, just go stark naked, starting off with the relationship, but as you do that and you build trust, and
Yeah.
and then you are able to be that level of of emotionally naked, which to me is where intimacy starts. You
Right.
know, being
Yeah.
able to connect on that level makes everything else flow just that much more smooth. And oftentimes people will kind of put a plug in that part of their relationship and they just want to keep everything else going,
Yeah.
but not realizing that that was the water hose that was feeding
Yeah.
everything else. And
Yeah.
because there's a kink in the hose, you wonder why nothing's getting water, nothing's growing. It's because
Yeah.
there's a kink in that part of your intimacy. Yeah, you can have
Wow.
sex all day, but are you intimate? Are you emotionally intimate with each other?
Wow.
And
Yeah.
so I think that's so important. So okay, now I told you that I had something else to show, and this is something that I know you're excited about, and so am I. So tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about this.
So yes, Use Me Incorporated, our nonprofit organization, is hosting the questionnaire HEIR discussion. And this is really about the 68% believing that unhealed trauma is the culprit in healthy relationships. Well, we're also heirs to God's happiness and God's joy and his peace and his love for us. So we are heirs to that. That's something that he died to give us. And so when you take that journey back to yourself, you discover who you are in him, and you begin to live out your life as his heir. So I this event particularly is going to be geared toward those who are on that journey, or if you're interested in how to take that journey back to yourself so that you can walk freely, walk upright, knowing who you have been called and chosen and created to be, and that you deserve to be happy. You deserve to have joy. You deserve to have peace in your life, because that's what your Father Creator has sent Jesus to come back and give you and die for. So yes, this is about kingdom heirs, and if you don't know, you will know after that day.
Okay, all right. So it's going to be Saturday, June 22nd. It's going to be
Yeah.
from 3 to 5 p.m. at the Ben May Library,
Yes.
701 Government Street, Mobile, Alabama. So for those of you who are watching this in the Mobile area, you want to come out and you want to be a part of this discussion. And if you know of somebody,
Yeah.
somebody who could benefit from it. And I mean, honestly, even if you are in a relationship or if you're married, but you want to learn more to share with somebody else who may not can make it, this
Yeah.
would be a great opportunity for you to come. So
Yeah.
again, it's going to be Saturday, June
Hmm.
the 22nd, from 3 to
Yeah.
5 p.m. at the Ben May Library, 701 Government Street, Mobile, Alabama. And so we want to see you there, and I'm so
Yeah.
excited.
This
Okay,
is a
now
free event. Yeah,
what? Free?
yes, this is a free event. Yes, yes. And vendor space is available, so any therapists, professional counselors and relationship coaches, come out and also bring your resources and things that you would love to share with those who are in attendance. Yes, this is, the victim services unit with the Mobile Police Department. They have been so kind as to help sponsor this event. And we also have some real people, some relatable people. We got the motivational speaker, Mr. Saccone Prince. After you dive deep into what you need to, release and what you need to start working on, he gonna bring something to help motivate you in that. We want you to not feel alone and feel like you got some people to trust that you trust. We want to establish some relationships. So we're excited. We're excited. Kiera Brown, who is, she's an intern with Joanna Snow counselors in Mobile. They're going to be there on site. So I'm excited. This is going to be great.
Okay, well, I am
Wonderful.
excited as well. As well. Listen, we are getting ready to actually play our last commercial. In fact, before we get out, but as soon as we come back, we want to to allow you the opportunity, in fact, to give us some closing thoughts. So we'll be right back.
And
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. First, you go to their site. You can use my link, betterhelp.com/SacconePrinceHeal. You answer a few questions, and BetterHelp will match you to a professional who's had years of experience helping people with struggles just like yours. You can do it all from your phone or your computer, via a phone call, a video chat, or messaging. However you feel most comfortable. It is the easiest possible way to start talking to a therapist. You'll be matched to a therapist usually within 48 hours, so you can get started fast. Let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist who can support you, all from the comfort of your own home. Visit betterhelp.com/SacconePrinceHeal or choose Saccone Prince Heal during your sign up and enjoy a special discount on your first month.
Well, again, in fact, we want to thank BetterHelp for being a sponsor of this podcast. And for those of you who haven't done so already, you can go get a copy of the book. You can go to SacconePrince.com/heal, or you can actually just look it up on Amazon. If you're in the Mobile area, I would definitely suggest you get an autographed copy from me, and you can
yeah.
do that, at your earliest convenience. And listen, Carla, in fact, we want to thank you for being on our podcast today. We want
Thank
to
you.
thank you for all the work that you're doing in the community and for just how you're pouring back into people's lives. But in fact, before we get out of here, we want to. Do you have any closing thoughts, any last words for our listeners?
This was an amazing discussion. I appreciate you for having me on. I appreciate the questions, because a lot of times we definitely need to have the conversation. We need to have the conversation about going back and taking that journey back to yourself, healing what wasn't healed in you as a child, parent what hasn't been parented in you as a child, in order to walk as an heir and be whole and be healed, for the next relationship that God has for you. We're done with the cycles of toxicity. We're done with the cycles of abuse. Like, it's so old now. That pattern is so old. There's no excuse anymore for, treating people that way. It's no excuse anymore.
Right.
But once you begin to love on yourself and discover who you are, then you can extend that same love. Jesus told us to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. But I think for so long, we've been taught that we're supposed to put others first, and in turn, where are we,
Yeah.
you know, hurting and traumatized and things that are not being addressed? But it's the total opposite. Love him first with all of your heart, mind, and your soul. Then love your neighbor as you love yourself. What has he revealed to you about you
Right.
that he wants, you to walk in? What has he revealed about you? What has he revealed that he wants you to fall in love about with you about you, so that now you can walk, you know in freedom and wholeness and love for the next person.
That is so, so true. It's something that I believe all of us need to do. Well,
Yeah.
again, Carl, I want to thank you for being on here. Thank you for sharing, and
Thank
I'm so looking forward to this event.
Yes.
I'm going to have some of my books there, and I mean, honestly, I've been selling on average 3 to 5 a week, and I mean, it's
Okay, that's up.
it's been. I'm telling you, I was just overwhelmed by the response to the book. So for those of you who know me, who can get in contact with me, and you're in the Mobile area, please come and get your book. I can guarantee you after the event, I'm gonna have to order some more. I probably need to order some more now because I'm looking at about, I think I may have 8 left. Okay,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
but I'm telling you, we all need to heal. We all
Yeah.
need to heal. We need to start with ourselves. But then it's not just enough for us to heal. It's up for us to help somebody else. To
Right.
help them. To encourage them. For us to be that shining example of I've healed, and this is what my life looks like now. So
Yeah, absolutely. And if I could say one more thing,
go
the
ahead. Go
way
ahead.
the wedding before the wedding TV book series is also on Amazon, and the wedding for the wedding YouTube channel is also up, so you can go and take a look at our trailer. We're looking forward to creating a short film series, so those of you who don't read but you like streaming and watching, we are looking to promote this as a TV series, and you get to see the wedding before the wedding and the characters Iris, Dahlia, Lily, Jade, and Rose with Harrison and Dr. Ivy. You get to see all of the characters from the book and see what their life looks like with real people, real faces, and real voices. It's also on Audible. So yeah, the wedding before the wedding in all three forms.
Okay. All right. All right. Maybe I could be like a bodyguard or a bouncer or something in one of those. I don't
You look like a yeah, we're gonna
know.
have to
Okay.
sing for you.
Yeah, yeah. Just pencil me in. A tall black guy in the corner. But anyway, well, listen. Again, thank you again, and I want to thank all of those who have tuned in. And this is Sakoni Prince of SakoniPrince.com, where we make motivation personal, introducing you to yourself. And I want to make sure that all of you know that you can also have me to be a speaker at your event, just like Carla has done. You can have me speak.
My name is Sakoni Prince of SakoniPrince.com, where we make motivation personal by introducing you to yourself. I'm a motivational speaker, a trainer, and a coach. I'm also an author. I help people in the area of personal development and leadership development because I believe that you can't lead others until you learn how to lead yourself. But once you learn how to lead yourself, the next logical step is that you lead other people.
Sikon Prince is the best keynote I've ever seen.
He really encouraged me so much.
He has this ability of seeing in people what they don't see in themselves.
He was so confident. When he was coming to the stage, you could see like, wow, this is a lion.
Any actor that's going for a role, they do a case study. If I'm going to be a fry cook, I go to a restaurant and watch people that are fry cooks. If I'm going to be a mob boss, I go and, well, maybe not go to with a mob, but you take some notes as to what they do. Our children are watching us. What can they reference when they step into our shoes? I do what I do because I believe that people have truly yet to understand their purpose. Once you know who you are, nothing can stop you. But until you know who you are, anything can. So my goal is to really help people to understand their purpose and their calling. And oftentimes they have the answers themselves, but they're not asking the right question. So I help people to get to that place to where they look at themselves. They step back and they see how they've been a help to those around them. And what really drives them. And from that, they really understand the value of it. They learn to value their value and see what value their value brings. Because a lot of people, they have yet to do that. Until you know who you are, anything can stop you. But once you know who you are, nothing can stop you. I want you to understand that you are blessed. That you are blessed to be a blessing. That there is somebody looking up to you. They're looking at you. Don't ever forget that. Because if you ever do, you're going to leave them without a mom.
I've learned so much, and I've experienced a lot of interactions with people.
The practical approach, like you can't just sit down there. You have to walk up to an opportunity. Sometimes you have to grab the opportunity. Sometimes you have to fight for the opportunity. There's so much life lessons.
I think from today onwards, I'll stretch out and reach to higher levels.